Well, good afternoon, and thank you to everyone who has joined us. My name is Liz Beneski, and I'm the Executive Director of AmSham Abu Dhabi. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the AmSham's Women in Business Committee event today in conjunction with UPS and the International Association of Accountants and Financial Professionals in Business, IMA. Today, you'll be here to enjoy a presentation on emotional intelligence. Please, reminder to keep yourself on mute. Please put your questions in the chat box for a discussion at the end of the webinar. And this webinar will be recorded. I also want to say a heartfelt welcome to our sister GCC AmSham chapters, mainly in Bahrain, Dubai, Kuwait, Oman, and Israel. We have 6 different nations represented today, and welcome everyone. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our 2 co-chairs today. From the Women in Business Committee, we have Ms. Rinad Nazal and we have Ms. Veronica Swanson. I believe, Rinad, you will be making the statement today, so welcome. The floor is yours. Or is it Ms. Veronica? We seem to be having some technical difficulties here. Either Ms. Veronica or Ms. Rinad, if you'd like to unmute and introduce our panelists today. Sharat, sound check. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Well, to continue on, and we'll make sure to revert back to Ms. Rinad and Ms. Veronica sometime during the presentation, I will take this moment to introduce Ms. Nina Azizi, Senior Marketing Manager of Middle East and Africa from the Institute of Management Accountants, who will have a welcoming few words before we proceed to the presentation today. Nina, over to you. Might need to unmute.
No, I did. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for the intro. Hello, everybody, and welcome to all of our attendees. We hope you're all safe and well. IMA is delighted to be partnering and supporting AmSham Abu Dhabi's Women in Business Steering Committee. Like AmSham, IMA echoes the same values to empower women to be leaders in their field, promote their contribution and participation to the economy, in addition to continuously providing crucial resources to upskill and reskill and stay relevant, specifically during these challenging times that we're living with. We hope you will join us over the next couple of months as we deliver a series of partnership topics in partnership with the Women in Business Steering Committee. Just to get started about who IMA is, IMA is the Institute of Management Accountants, which is the professional association for accountants and financial professionals in business. IMA is dedicated to developing, certifying, connecting, and supporting the world's best accounting and financial professionals. IMA was founded in 1919 and is now a 100-year-old association with a network of over 130,000 members worldwide, with over 300 chapters who look after members globally. You'd also like to know that IMA is the only organization to offer the globally respected Certified Management Accountant credential, along with the CSCA, which is the Certified in Strategy and Competitive Analysis, which is offered to CMA certified professionals. Next slide, please. So how does IMA support the profession? We touched on the certifications, but we also offer a great number of educational resources. And here's a snapshot of the many benefits on offer. IMA's Education Center offers professional education to sharpen minds and skills with IMA webinars and over 500 courses that are eligible for NASBA CPE credits. You can select topics ranging from business leadership and ethics, external reporting, and technology enablement, to name a few. Moving on to career resources, which is an exceptionally valuable tool that offers Career Driver, which is a career management tool that assesses and evaluates your skills gap to achieve a desired role that you are seeking to attain. This is done by matching your skills against 46 management accounting roles through a personalized development plan. We also have the Ethics Center, which is a testament of IMA's commitment to advocating the highest standards of ethical business practices. This is done through a variety of resources, such as the IMA's Statement of Ethical Professional Practice, along with the Ethics Helpline. IMA's Leadership Academy, with this supports the development and enhancement of our members in terms of their leadership education and skills to aid in career advancement through various offerings. Another very important resource I'd like to bring your attention to is IMA's Technology and Analytics Center, which focuses on key technology and data analytics trends that are affecting the accounting and finance profession. You can navigate through online courses, webinars, and research, all dedicated to better serve technology tools and needs that are required. Last but not least, we've got our research and publications resource facility that houses the Strategic Finance, which is the award-winning flagship publication of the IMA. And this is rolled out every month through thought-provoking articles that offer advice that helps financial professionals perform their jobs more effectively, advance their careers, and so forth. In addition to this, there's IMA's Research Center, which is a very robust center that you can gain access to IMA research on management accounting practices and other relevant topics. Now, this is just a snapshot of the many valuable professional resources that IMA has to offer. If you'd like to know more, I'd encourage you to visit our website at imamiddleeast.org and to follow us on IMA Middle East across our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter pages. I'd like to now introduce our guest speaker for today's session. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Sunil Deshmukh. Sunil is a C-suite executive with global experience spanning 3 decades. Sunil has extensive experience in business management, from developing business strategies to managing operations to providing board-level oversight and governance. Sunil is a CMA and a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Today, Sunil will be delivering our first session with AmCham Abu Dhabi's Women in Business Steering Committee on emotional intelligence. Sunil will tell us why emotional intelligence is important to personal and professional success and how to recognize competencies to work on that increase the level of emotional intelligence. We hope you enjoyed this insightful session. Over to you, Sunil.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nina. 1 minute. Let me open my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is my screen visible? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So hello and good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum and Masa al Khairi. I would like to first of all thank Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce, AmCham, particularly the Women in Business Committee. I would also like to thank my own institute, IMA USA, and I am also on the board of IMA Faculty Leadership Committee in US. I am also the Associate Dean of Mentoring Committee of IMA in USA, and I thank my leadership committee to give me an opportunity to give this webinar today on emotional intelligence. The topic of emotional intelligence is very near and dear to my heart, really. And I was a bit surprised, and maybe for the first time for me, I'm talking to so many women simultaneously. Most of the time, whenever I go and give the sessions or lectures, the ratio of men to women is adverse. It means there are 70% or 80% are men and 20% are women. Now it looks it's a reverse here. And I also believe the emotional intelligence or emotions is a topic very closely related to the women. And it is proved psychologically the emotional intelligence of the women is definitely higher and better than men. So thank you very much. So let's get into our discussion. And I think I have about 45 minutes today. So what we'll try to do in this next 45 minutes, we'll try to see what is the concept and meaning of emotional intelligence, and of course the intelligence quotient, which is very oftenly misused or confused along with emotional intelligence. We'll see what are the 5 key components of emotional intelligence. We'll also see how leadership and emotional intelligence is closely related. We'll also try to see how do we improve our emotional intelligence. Then we'll get into a little bit different concept, which I think is very relevant in organizational world from the point of view of emotional intelligence, called psychological capital, and how the psychological capital and emotional intelligence go hand in hand as far as an individual is concerned or an organization is concerned. And then at the end, we'll try to see how the COVID-19 is affecting the emotional intelligence of all of us, including me and everyone. And obviously, we'll have a small Q&A at the end of the session. I will try to answer all your questions as far as possible to the best of my knowledge and my expertise, and I hope to enjoy that session as well. So when we come to the emotional intelligence, the first thing I always wanted to define or discuss is what is emotion. Unless we know what is an emotion is, how do we know what is an emotional intelligence is? So emotion is a strong feeling which we derive from circumstances, mood, relationship with others. Right? Emotion is always surrounded with something else happening around us, maybe in our office, maybe in our organization, maybe in our family, maybe in our sports activity, maybe in our college, university. So emotions are always derived from the circumstances, and those circumstances tend to change our mood or our relationship with others. The Latin word for emotion is emotere, which means energy in motion. So we get a lot of energy in our brain, our mind, and that energy moves very fast, and that's where we call it as an emotion. Emotion is also instinctive and intuitive. You don't get emotion with a lot of thinking or reasoning or knowledge. They just come to you. It's like an impulse. We go for a shopping and we suddenly like a particular product, we go and buy it. Like that we call impulse shopping. So emotions come most of the time in an impulsive manner and instinctive manner. That's also one of the reasons we talk about how to manage and control the emotions. From a science point of view or from a biological point of view, emotion is a state associated with our nervous system. Our brains has got our neurons, and we have nervous system, and these neurons transmit the signals, chemical signals and electrochemical signals or electric signals, by which neurophysiological changes happen in our body, and which is basically pertaining to the thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and to a degree of whether we like it or we don't like it. That's why we call pleasure or displeasure. So that's basically, in short or in nutshell, what we want to say the emotion. As a human being, 90% of the time in a day, we experience some sort of emotions. So for example, now a lot of you are listening and sitting in this webinar. Every one of you must be going through some emotion, and everyone's emotion might be different. Someone may feel very happy. Someone may feel surprised. Who is this Sunil Deshmukh? And what the hell he is going to talk us about emotion? So someone is surprised, someone is frustrated, someone is joyous, someone is angry, technology is not working. What the hell is? So emotions everywhere at every single point of time, we go through the emotions. And hundreds of emotions come to our mind. And we will see a little bit some definitions or some what are the expressions of emotions, but emotion is basically a biological state of mind which we cannot control beyond a level. That's very important. Other important factor in emotion is expressing the emotions and suppressing the emotions. So these are the two very important factors, because emotions, if they remain within our body and if we don't express the emotion, they carry stress. And you know, all know stress is not good for us. So expressing the emotions is also very important, and suppressing an emotion is not very good for us as far as health is concerned. Now let's see what is intelligence, because we have to see emotional intelligence, right? So intelligence, as you know, intelligence is our ability to acquire a knowledge or a skill. Maybe you want to become an engineer, or you want to become a doctor, or you want to become a data scientist. So we acquire the skills and knowledge required. That's intelligence. Human intelligence is ability of the people, ability of the human beings, which is a mental quality which allows us to use our experience to learn a particular thing, or learn and understand from the external situation. Now, for example, COVID-19 has created a lockdown, right? We are all learning what's happening during COVID-19 lockdown and what we need to do. So that is intelligence. How do we change our behavior? How do we change our lifestyle? Also, intelligence helps us to understand and handle the abstract concepts, the difficult things in the life. And we use this knowledge or this intelligence to manipulate, don't take manipulate in a negative sense, but to use that knowledge for benefit of us. That's what is intelligence. Now, we have seen what is emotion, we have seen what is intelligence. So intelligence quotient, IQ, is the most commonly used word for last maybe 30, 40 years. And so IQ is a score. It's a number which is derived from standardized tests developed by the experts, and which are typically based on cognitive abilities or intelligence abilities of people. But normally the IQ score is related to an age, because with the age, your IQ may go up or it may come down. That's why IQ is always related to the age. And you all know IQ means, people say that the IQ of Albert Einstein was more than 160 or 165. IQ of Charles Darwin, IQ of Nikola Tesla, IQ of scientist is normally above 150, 160. So there is a way and methodology of calculating the IQ. Nowadays, a lot of people go and test their IQ before putting the children into the school, or before putting the children into the higher education and universities. And there is a website, there is an association called Mensa International, MENSA, Mensa International. So they have created a club of high IQ people, and they only give the membership to the people whose IQ is more than 130. So this is what is intelligence. So let us see now, with all this thing, knowledge of what is emotion, what is intelligence. Now let us see what is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is a part of you that affects every aspect of your life. It's very important. Emotional intelligence pertains to us. It's part of you, and it affects every single aspect of your life or our life. And it is defined as our ability to understand and manage our own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. So this is what is emotional intelligence in a very simple word, a simple words or a simple definition, which says that our ability to understand our own emotions, so pertaining to me as an individual, and then our ability to understand the emotions of people around us, recognize the emotions sitting in the room, or emotions in your family house, or emotions in your board meeting, and then influence those emotions the way you want to utilize them for the benefit of others. So that's what is emotional intelligence is. In a very simple term, it's all about emotions, 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 your own emotions and emotions of people around you. That's what is emotional intelligence. Now, when we say emotions, emotions are generally intertwined or related with mood. You know, we have a mood, we have a temperament, right? We have personality, creativity, motivation. So emotions are always influenced or intertwined with these 4 or 5 factors all the time. We always get, or we get to express 5 core emotions, or most important emotions we all the time feel or go through, are the basically joy, happiness, fear, right? Sadness, disgust, and anger. So these are the 5 basic emotions we all go through. As far as the psychology is concerned, or the psychologists have proved that human beings are born with 2 fears. We are born with 2 fears. And those 2 fears are, number 1 is fear of sound. A young baby born within one minute, 2 minutes, or half an hour will get a fear of sound. So fear of sound is innate. We are born with that. Second is fear of falling down. Fear of falling down. So these are the 2 fears we are born with. Every single human being is known to have these 2 fears at the birth. But over a period of time, as we grow up as a child, as an adult, and all those things, we develop so many other fears, and those keep on adding to our emotions or our emotions. Now, understanding the root cause of your emotion is how to use these emotions to help you to identify who you are, who am I, and how I would interact with others with these emotions in my mind or in my brain. Very important thing is emotional intelligence can be learned. You can strengthen your emotional intelligence capabilities. You can learn it, you can go through a training. For some people, they are born with emotional intelligence. So it's a combination. There is no hard and fast rules that one cannot learn the emotions or emotional intelligence. Absolutely not. You can always learn, and there are enough courses available online, offline, if you want to learn the emotional intelligence. It's basically a common sense of managing your own emotions, which will help you to grow in the life. So this is an emotion wheel. Various types of emotions are shown here. I'm not going to cover, but I just wanted to show it to you that normally we see emotions like, for example, grief. When someone near one or dear one dies, we go through a grief, right? Then we have acceptance. Love is a very basic emotion for human beings. Aggressiveness, we suddenly become aggressive in a particular situation, right? So there are various types of emotions. So this emotion which basically tries to show you there could be many types of emotions which we go through whole day in our everyday routine. We sometimes may not realize what exactly is my emotion. We may not able to express that I am going through an anger, or am I going through a boredom, or am I going through a surprise. It happens many times. We do not recognize our own emotions. Means we are not able to pinpoint exactly what is happening to me or which are my emotions. Now, let us get into the little bit more detail of emotional intelligence. So the terminology or the term emotional intelligence was made popular by an American guy called Daniel Goleman. So Daniel Goleman studied around 200 large companies in America, out of it, many were Fortune 500 companies. And in the year 1995, he published a book called Emotional Intelligence. And he wrote a very exhaustive article in Harvard Business Review, which is still available on HBR. You can refer it to that article. And he was mainly focusing on emotional intelligence and leadership. How does the emotional intelligence and leadership work together or affect each other? So when Daniel Goleman studied the emotional intelligence or released in this book, what he said that truly effective leaders are distinguished by a high degree of emotional intelligence. So he proved that a leader is a good leader, or a leader becomes a good leader or a great leader only if he or she has got a high emotional intelligence. And he proved it by studying 200 companies, doing a proper research, and he proved it. And from that time onwards, this concept of emotional intelligence became very, very popular. Even till today, we all talk emotional intelligence in leadership discussions and all. So Daniel Goleman, what he did is he basically gave 5 components of emotional intelligence, which are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So these are the 5 key components Daniel Goleman came out in his book, and they became very famous later on as a key components of emotional intelligence, which we will see in detail in next few slides as we go ahead. So before we get into the details of emotional intelligence, I thought to touch upon this one topic, which is IQ versus EQ, which is very commonly debated in the leadership circles. So we have seen what is intelligence quotient, and we now roughly know what is emotional intelligence or, well, we will correlate emotional intelligence and emotional quotient as the same. So what happens is, if you know the concept of iceberg or a mental iceberg, iceberg is you see ice above the water and below the water, and obviously under the water, the quantity of rice or quantity of ice or the size of iceberg is very, very big. So IQ is like above the water level, which is your balance performance, your decision making, your knowledge, your engineering knowledge, your accounting knowledge. So that all comes from IQ. Whereas EQ is self-awareness, motivation, which we just saw, self-management, social skills, and empathy. Now, what Daniel Goleman has proved in his book or published in his book, he said that IQ gets you hired, whereas EQ gets you promoted. To enter an organization, be whatever type of organization is there, the entry point is your basic qualification, your education, your skills, your expertise, your knowledge, your intelligence, your talent, everything. But once you get inside the organization, once you are in a shop floor, there are 20 engineers working on a shop floor, manufacturing, for example, in Ferrari car or any other car. Now, out of those 20 engineers, which engineer will go ahead? It's not the IQ which will decide that, it's the EQ which will decide. Of course, IQ is important, but EQ is going to push you as far as the promotion is concerned. And that's what IQ versus EQ debate has come to a conclusion. And we'll see a little bit more what happens is. So coming to intelligence quotients, or IQ is a score which we have seen. So what are the abilities of a person who is getting the good IQ? Basically, they learn, understand, apply the knowledge and skills very well. They have ability to reason out or ability to think and apply the abstract concepts and use the relevant information. In a workplace, in a work scenario, success with challenging tasks, ability to analyze, for example, research and development department. You need to do a lot of analysis. You need to do a lot of permutations and combinations. You need to do a lot of tests. So a guy who is intelligent, who has got a high IQ, a scientist type of person, will be successful in this type of scenario. Whereas in emotional intelligence type of scenario, it is your ability to identify, assess, control emotions, your own emotions, as well as the emotions of your others. If you have got a good emotion quotient, if you have got a good EI or EQ, what is likely to happen is you will be good in teamwork, you will be in leadership scenario, you will be able to successfully create the relationship, partnerships, collaborations, and all those things. And that will definitely help a person to grow in his career and as well as his life. So this is where we generally have seen now till now what is emotion, what is intelligence, what is emotional intelligence, what is intelligence quotient, what is Daniel Goleman's basic key components and fundamentals of the emotional intelligence. So we'll little bit get into now, a little bit go into a deeper part of the emotional intelligence and how do we apply this emotional intelligence into, for example, what we call our leadership scenario. So leadership and emotional intelligence. So here you can see a picture. There are 6 dogs. One dog is separated out, or odd man out, we call it, differentiated. So that's the leader. And obviously others are the. So other dogs are high on IQ and one dog is high on EQ. And that's why there's a differentiation. So, but if you come a scenario, what happens in a real life is you all work in an organization, corporate companies and all those things. We very often see what happens is a highly intelligent executive or highly skilled engineer, when he or she is promoted to a senior leadership position, they fail. Generally, it is seen people fail. For example, you have a technology head of your company who is managing the entire technology, manufacturing, plant, whatever is there, and he suddenly one day promoted as a CEO of a company. Chances are, the history has shown, based on the research done by Daniel Goleman, that such people fail to be good CEOs or good managing director or good in a leadership position because they are high on IQ, might be low on EQ. Whereas many times we also see that an average intelligent person, not very skillful engineer, if he is promoted or has been promoted to a senior position, you may see that he's a successful man, as a leader, as a CEO. So what we are trying to say here is that this is a very common scenario. I have gone through this in my life many times, and we make a comment. My CEO doesn't know anything about technology, but he's a CEO. But we don't know he's very good in his emotional intelligence, managing the people or managing the overall business or stakeholders or government or whatever. So this is a classic example of IQ versus EQ in a leadership scenario. This is also seen as sports activity. Means this is everywhere. You go to an academics, you go to a best university, a dean of a best university may not be a very intelligent professor, but he might be a good man manager, or he might be a good in managing people and students and all those things. In a sports activity, individually classic sports player may not become a good team captain. It happens in football, it happens in cricket, it happens in any sports activity. But when they perform as an individual, they are too good. But the moment they become a leader, they are not able to manage everything. So this is a very, very common sense or common scenario we have seen all the time. So let us get into a little bit more detail and understand what is leadership and how emotional intelligence comes into the picture. So we all know leadership is the most difficult profession anywhere, be it in government, be it in educational institution, be it in a corporate. The leader is responsible and he has to do too many things, of course, to ensure profitability and so on. So we always use this concept called situational leadership. We need a leader who is able to work in every single situation, and he changes his leadership style according to a situation. That's what we call situational leadership. So Goldman research has suggested that a person may have best training in the world, right? He may have a razor sharp analytical mind, right? He may have tremendous supply of smart ideas. He may get every 1 hour, 2 hours, he comes out with fantastic ideas, how to grow the business or how to improve on productivity or how to increase the quality of the product, all those things. But if that person does not have emotional intelligence, he may not make a great leader. And this is proved based on a research. This is based on 200 large size companies in America, researched by Daniel Goleman. So emotional intelligence plays a very, very important role in a growth of a leader or in a growth of a leadership. Emotional intelligence is sine qua non, or it's an essential condition for a good leadership. Ability to manage your own emotions and as well as recognize and influence others is the one strongest indicator in a workplace performance. When a leader works in an organization or works in a company, he is working with so many people around him. There are so many departments. There is a marketing, there is a finance, there is HR, then there are customers, there are B2B customers, B2C customers, manage governments, manage partnerships, manage distributors, so many things are there. Manage society, right? Social entrepreneurship. So during this time, a leader's role is very important, that he need to understand what are his own emotions, but more important is he need to recognize, or she need to recognize, what is happening in the workplace or around him, and how and what are the emotions of people around organization or around that company. Research had shown that 90% of the top performers are highly emotionally intelligent. So most of the leaders, even today, what you see in the world, they are very good in their emotional intelligence, and that's how they get promoted as a leader, CEO, and that's how they maintain their position also as a leader for a longer time and become successful. So let us get into the 5 key components of emotional intelligence. So we have seen these 5 key components, which are defined by Daniel Goleman. And the 5 key components are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. We all know these terms, right? They are not very technically difficult terms, or it doesn't mean that we don't know the meaning of any of these things. They are very simple terms: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. We'll see in a little bit more detail what Daniel Goleman, when he defined his terminologies, what was in his mind and from where he was coming to that. So the model of emotional intelligence is basically based on 2 things. One is personal competencies. My competencies as a Sunil, or my competencies as an individual. And second is social competencies. My competencies to deal with people around me, to deal with organization, my organizational teams, people. So social and personal. Under personal competence, what are the important things is self-awareness and self-management. So one is awareness and other is management. Whereas under social competence, what is there? Social awareness. So now you're talking about awareness of the society or people around you, and relationship management. Okay, that's what we are talking about. So these are the two things, and this is what we see, and this is what we need to act upon. So self-awareness and social awareness, we need to see that, and self-management and relationship management, we need to act upon that. And that's why this is a basic model of emotional intelligence. So let us see a little bit in more detail what is the definition or what are the things covered under these things. Okay, so self-awareness is basically knowing your own strengths, weaknesses, your drives, your values, and how they impact on others. So if I know what is my strength and if I know what is my weakness, but I should also need to know how those strengths and weaknesses are going to impact on others. Just knowing that I am very good in mathematics, or for example, I am very good in communication is not sufficient. Is my communication going to get or going to give me benefit for the people to understand what am I talking? That awareness is very important. We all talk about SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What happens is we keep doing those things for our corporate business, our departments, our companies. We never do our own SWOT analysis. So here indirectly is suggesting that we need to know our strengths, we need to know our weaknesses, and how are we going to use those strengths or weaknesses when we deal with the people. Next is self-regulation or self-management, self-regulation. How do we control or redirect disruptive or impulsive modes? So this is a very common scenario. We see that suddenly in a meeting, a person loses his head, or people walk out of the meetings. Many times they don't agree to certain things. They are not able to express, they walk out of the meeting. So expression of emotion, which I said originally also, separation and expression. So when you express your emotion, and when the emotions come to you in an impulse way, or in an intuitive way, or in a disruptive manner, are you able to control those emotions? Are you able to regulate and manage those emotions? That's very important as far as emotional intelligence is concerned. And that's where the self-regulation. So I know my emotions. I am likely to lose my head now. How do I control my anger? How do I control my frustration when I express it to the people around? That's self-regulation. Motivation, we all know, relishing achievement for its own sake. We'll see a little bit more detail, but basically motivation needs to be intrinsic motivation. You need to feel something good to do or something to achieve from within your body or within your mind. And that has to come naturally. Means if you are getting motivated only if you are paid high amount of salary, or you have been provided with a nice car, that motivation is not the intrinsic motivation. That's a temporary motivation. Empathy, we very oftenly use this word. Empathy is understanding other people's emotional makeup. So we empathize if there is a problem with your deputy in your team, and we feel as if that problem has happened to me, and we try to help him or her. Social skills, of course, building rapport with others to move in a desired direction. See, at the end of the day, all things, whatever we do, is our purpose is to achieve a common goal, which could be your department, which could be your company, which could be your team, whatever. So we all need to go in a uniform direction. So we need a social skills to influence the people to get in the desired direction. And that's where the social skills come into the picture. Now, if we see the same thing now, the components of the emotional intelligence, then what could be the definitions? A little bit more explanation now coming in. And if you want to identify that behavior of self-awareness or self-regulation, how do you identify, or what are the hallmarks of that? So self-awareness, we know now, knowing one's strengths, weaknesses, we are just in that. The hallmark of a self-awareness is self-confidence. I am confident. I feel confident I will achieve this. Realistic self-assessment. I am able to assess what's going to work for me, what's not going to work for me. Am I going to fail or am I going to be successful in this? So I am able to do my own assessment. Then self-depreciating humor. So one need to have his own mindset about, like, you should be able to take things lightly sometime in the life and not only under pressure all the time. So self-depreciating humor or sense of humor is very, very important to be having a self-awareness. Self-regulation, controlling or redirecting disruptive impulses or moods that we have seen. Other thing under self-regulation is the propensity to suspend judgment, to think before acting. So most of the time, our problems come to us or appear to us when we are in some event or some issue, and we just suddenly give our views, or we express anger, or we express what you can say frustration. So are we able to suspend our judgment before we take an action? That's the very important part of the self-regulation. So how do we identify, or what are the hallmarks of self-regulation? And they could be trustworthiness and integrity, right? You are a trusted person, people trust you, people believe in what you say, you do the walk the talk, what you say. Yeah. Then your ability to work in ambiguity. That's very important. Nowadays we call VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complicated, ambiguous VUCA world. And now the COVID has added another VUCA element into that, which is very, 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 very highly complicated. So are you, as a good emotional intelligence, self-regulated person, are you able to deal with ambiguities? Are you able to manage the ambiguities? That also becomes very important. And next, self-regulation is openness to change. This is another factor which is, change management is a huge topic for discussion. But are we ready to change? Are we showing the resistance to the change? Like classic example, again, is during COVID-19 scenario, most of the companies have to change their working methodology, working style, work from home, work from office or whatever. So as a leader, were you able, like I'm giving this webinar now from my home, right? I'm sitting in my home, and you guys, all of you must be listening to me somewhere from your office or your home and not in a factory and all those things. So that's ability to change or openness to change. Motivation, which is very, very important, is we all know motivation is a passion to work for a reason, right? And that's what I was saying, that intrinsic motivation, and that passion has to come not only because of money or not only because of status. It has to come from within, that I want to work because I enjoy my work. I want to work because that's the purpose of my life, to work for me. I want to be physically fit or whatever. So propensity to pursue the goals with energy and persistence is also the part of motivation. So basically, a guy who is highly motivated, he's got strong drive. He or she would have strong drive to achieve something, to set targets and to achieve those targets, to set goals and achieve those goals. Optimistic. That's another very important factor, that unless the person is optimistic, he will not be able to achieve something. So he is optimistic about success and not about the failure. And obviously, when you work in an organizational environment, you need to have commitment to your company, to your organization, to your department, to your team, or whatever. So those are the hallmarks of motivation. Now, if we come to the empathy, so last two part of the key components we are seeing. So under empathy, obviously we know what is empathy: understanding other people's emotional makeup, and what is your skill in treating those people according to their emotional reactions. That is very important. So for example, there is a problem in your office and a guy in your team is not in a mood to work. Something happens, a personal front and all those things, and he's just not able to work. If you go and pressurize him, no, you have to go and deliver this within 2 hours. I don't care what's happening to you in your personal life. That's your personal problem. Office is office. That's not an empathy. And what is likely to happen? The person may not deliver the desired results, and then you will also suffer as a leader. Empathy is also a skill in treating people according to their emotional reaction. So most important is, a leader need to understand what are the reactions of his team in a meeting. Many times you may not see those reactions very openly. So how do we get those reactions? That's also very, very important. So social skills, proficiency in managing relationship, building networks, ability to find common ground, build rapport, all those things. And obviously effectiveness in leading the change, and persuasiveness is also very, very important as far as the social skills. Your ability to convince people to do something in your own interest or in the interest of your organization. That's another. So these 5 components, if you want to see, and Daniel Goleman has broken down these 5 components into basically what you call as a 12 competencies. We'll not run through all, but we have seen most of them under self-awareness. So personal competencies is self-awareness, self-management. Social competencies, social awareness and relationship management. We have seen what is emotional self-awareness, self-control, adaptability under self-management, achievement orientation, positive outlook, empathy. We have seen organization awareness, social awareness, influence, conflict management, teamwork, coach and mentor. This is a new concept, which is a leadership style, a coaching style of leadership will always help you, and the inspirational side of leadership will always help. So action points, generally we will see how do we improve these things in a normal scenario, or what are the possibilities for us to improve upon. So improving self-awareness, practice noticing your emotions. Consider the negative emotions impact. So before a negative emotions come to your mind, what will happen if you do that? Think in advance, right? Think ways to manage emotion. What are the different ways you can manage emotion? Maybe don't express, maybe write it down on a piece of paper, or send it an email instead of talking in an open meeting. Take a look at your strengths and weaknesses. Improve self-management. Obviously, wait before responding. Most of the time, we do not listen to the people and we respond immediately. And that response or sometimes is gone wrong and not accepted by them. Stay away from office politics. Develop beneficial solutions, right? Find ways to release your stress. Like I said in the beginning, expressing the emotions or releasing the stress is very important. So how do you do that? You go into the gym, or in an office, you don't speak, or you go, there are different ways. Every single person has got different methodology to express his or her stress release or emotions release. One need to know that how do you improve empathy? Try to see the situation from others' perspective. Validates others' point of view. You may not agree with everyone, right? But sometimes, as they say, agree to disagree and move ahead. At least speak to them, understand their point of view, and then go ahead. Examine self-attitude, practice active listening. One of the most difficult things people don't do today or nowadays. Listening, active listening is very important. Treat others as you would like to be treated. That's very classic. If you want to get respect, you also have to give respect to someone else. So expect the same thing. Influence others, conflict management, focus on job attention. All those things we need to do basically to ensure that you are improving the motivation of the people. Practice optimism. This is a very, very important thing as far as motivation is concerned. And then set inspiring goals. That's very important. Don't keep the goals or targets which are impossible to achieve, right? Then you will get frustrated and they'll go through the emotional and all those things. So keep the goals which are easy to achieve. Little bit stretch is required, but not too much stress. So I think with this, we have covered most part of the leadership, emotional intelligence, and key components of the leadership items. We'll just run upon, there are another 3-4 slides, and then we are under control according to me. So I wanted to bring this concept of psychological capital because emotional intelligence pertains to an individual, whereas psychological capital pertains to an organization. So I wanted these two things to marry together so that when we talk about emotional intelligence and psychological capital, it's a holistic view of the total organization and people inside the organization. So psychological capital refers to a set of resources a person can use. Now here a person inside an organization or in his personal life can use to help improve their performance on the job, right? This is very important, on the job. So there are 4 pillars under psychological capital, which is called hero or hope. Hope and optimism are the personality traits. So person should have hope and optimism in whatever he is doing, which is good for psychological well-being. Efficacy, the people's belief that I am able to do this. I have a capability to produce the final results or bring the output. Resilience, which is very, very important nowadays. We all know that. Bouncing back. We are all going through this COVID-19 and lockdown, all those things. So we need to be resilient. So a person in our organization must be resilient. and of course, optimism, which we have seen under emotional intelligence. So psychological capital is a concept which is more linked to increased well-being of work-life satisfaction. How do we balance work and life together? Developing even one of the 4 areas of hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism will help us to achieve the organizational behavior. Now it is moving from an individual to the organization. So that's very critical here. And as they say that we are successful when we are happy, not other way around. We are successful when we are happy and not the other way around. And if you have hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, you will weather any storm as far as your work is concerned. So there is a concept like how capital in an organization moves. And that's where I just wanted to bring this to the knowledge of all of you. Basically, traditional capital, you know all what we have: money, machines, plant and machinery, technology, data. Data is oil nowadays, so data is an asset. But human capital, what you know, that's where your experience, your engineering knowledge, or your accounting knowledge, your skills. So that falls under IQ. That's why it's IQ. Then you go to the social capital, what you know, right? What you know as an individual. So relationship, networks, contract, friends, and that's where emotional intelligence is coming. That's why I've shown you here. And next is positive psychological capital. So who you know and who you are. These are the 2 components of emotional intelligence. And under who you are, confidence, hope, optimism, resilience, and positive emotions. So maybe last 2-3 slides, and then we are under control. Emotional intelligence impact on COVID-19. So during this COVID-19, a lot of things have changed, and our emotions, our work-life balance, everything got shifted. One is you are working from home, lockdown fatigue, new normal, social distancing, life during the lockdown and post-lockdown, what's going to happen. Managing the grief. This is another big important area. Means I must tell you that managing the grief is a big topic for discussion, but we normally say that we are in grief when someone is dead in the family or a dear ones or near ones. But I personally look at losing a job, losing your financial ability to earn a revenue or income is also a grief. A person goes through the same situation when he loses a job as good as losing a person in his family. It sometimes that bad. So there is a grief model defined by 2 psychologists called Kubler-Ross, a mother and daughter psychologist, American psychologist. They developed a grief model, and under their grief model, they say that when a person is going through a grief, they go through the 5 stages. First stage is denial, second stage is anger, third stage is bargaining, fourth stage is depression, and last stage is acceptance. So finally we accept, okay, whatever. And I know many people during this COVID-19, I know, due respect, one of the plant managers who used to work with me in Singapore, he passed away 2 days back by COVID. It was a shock. This guy was hardly in late 40s and he died because of COVID. So those things are likely to happen. So be prepared from emotional intelligence point of view. Productivity getting down, fear of unknown. No one knows what's going to happen. So fear is a very dangerous thing. We all know that, right? But sometimes fear is required for us to protect ourselves. Like for example, now we wash our hands every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So it is because of the fear of COVID-19, we are using the washing the hands and cleaning the hands all the time. Impact on business, impact on career. Work-life balance is completely topsy-turvy now, right? We're all working from home now. At some point of time, we used to say that, no, I need to go home, I need to spend time with my family. Now you're with family all the time, and you are finding it difficult to work with them or work from home. So emotional intelligence is very crucial. We need to spend time on understanding our own awareness, our own management as far as emotions are concerned. We need to practice empathy, kindness, very, very important. Change our internal thoughts. We need to label the fear. What is fear in my mind? Why? What is that which is giving me a problem? And there is a psychological concept that you need to label the fear. Right? So identify that fear. Be real. Share your thoughts. Share your worries. Share your concerns. Take care of yourself and your dear ones, like you do in an aircraft. No? When oxygen mask falls below, you should use it first for you and then give it to your neighbor or your son or daughter. So same concept here. If you are not physically fit, how are you going to take care of your parents or your family? And practice mindfulness. Take care of yourself as far as those things. So summary and takeaway, my last slide. Emotional intelligence is more important than intelligence quotient. Emotional intelligence can be learned, practiced, and developed. So be sure there is nothing like that. It only comes to some people and not to other people. The best leaders balance their analytical and emotional intelligence. That's very, very important. And emotional intelligence will help you to build strong relationship in personal as well as professional and social life. Emotional intelligence improves teamwork, partnerships, collaborations. Self-control, self-regulation, self-awareness is the key for success of you as an individual or as an organization from a psychological capital point of view. And if you have a problem, ask for help. Talk to a mentor, talk to a coach, talk to a counselor. Don't just that emotion or that fear carry on into your mind. So I think with this, I have covered all my slides. Thank you very much. And of course, I'm open for questions and answers. When
Thank
dealing
you,
with people, yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, I thank you, Sunil, and I'm mindful of people's time. So I'm going to practice mindfulness here, if you don't mind, because I want to have a moment to have a couple of questions answered. And for that, if you don't mind, Sunil, take those of you who are attending, take note of the website, Sunil Deshmukh, -deshmukh.com. You will receive this recording after the event, so don't worry if you didn't get all the notes. But without further ado, here is the co-leader, co-chair of Women in Business, Ms. Rinad Nazal, who had some technical difficulties, but she's been on the whole time helping collate questions. Rinad, the floor is yours for Sunil.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz, and thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Mr. Sunil, for the wonderful presentation, and thank you, Nina, and my apologies for the technical difficulties. So my questions to you are, what are your thoughts on employers using emotional intelligence questionnaire during interview settings? Do you believe an assessment can be made?
Very good question, Rinad, and thank you very much for asking me a tough question. I like that. So you know, most of the employers nowadays ask for the employees before recruiting them to go through a psychometric test. You know, there are so many types of psychometric tests. So most of the psychometric tests really test your emotional ability. And there is a very famous test called 16 personality test, or we call MBTI, Myers-Briggs types of indicators. So most of these tests really check what is your emotional intelligence, not to a very large extent, but to a fairly large extent, to identify what is the emotional constituent of this person. And they guide you. No psychometric test is 100% correct, because it's the mind of person when he is giving that test, what is going through that mind. But people do, and in this test, some people look at intuition, right? Or are you an introvert or an extrovert? So these types of tests carry and tell you your emotional makeup. But all said and done, a test is only a litmus test. When a person goes on the real job front or in the work, he may change. But yes, these tests are important. I personally look at emotional intelligence. Ideally, when you are promoting a person, not for getting entry into the job, because their IQ is more important. When you are promoting a person from a junior position to a senior position, where he is going to handle a team of people, 5 people, 3 people, 10 people, 20 people, one must see his emotional intelligence, because they will find it very difficult to manage the people and manage the emotions of the team. Thank you. I hope you answered.
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful. And then my next question is, with the emotional intelligence, is there levels? So can one go from maybe a level 1 to level 2 and better themselves and work on it? Is it leveled by any means?
Well, to be frank, like we calculate emotional quotient in a number, IQ, like IQ of 130 is very good and all those things. People have not yet started calculating the emotional quotient, EQ. But there are courses, there are online courses, there are offline courses where they teach you emotional intelligence. But it's very difficult to calculate the measure, or what is the numerator and what's the denominator and what's the percentage of EQ or EI of a person, because it's very person specific. it's very situation specific. But in general, a person can know, means you can rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how good a person is on emotional intelligence. You may say he's in the range of 6 to 7, or he's in the range of 7 to 8. Some of the psychometric tests help you to identify that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And then just one last question here is, do you recommend any like must reads, anything, any good reference books that you that we should read more on emotional intelligence?
Okay, very good, interesting question. There are two things I would recommend or suggest. One is read the book by Daniel Goleman on emotional intelligence.
Okay. Yeah,
Number
you
one.
mentioned that one.
Number two is our Institute of Management Accountant runs a full program on emotional intelligence. It's like a webinar type of program, 1.5 hours or 2 hours. So we have a lot of resources on IMA website, which at the beginning Nina has already told that. So people can take that small course of emotional intelligence on IMA website. So I'm indirectly also advertising my own institute. But there are many courses on emotional intelligence online, be on Coursera or be it on LinkedIn or anywhere. But most important is people need to understand how to regulate and manage their own emotions. And sometimes it's beyond education. It's your own internal commitment. And that's why people come and talk about the mindfulness and meditation and yoga and all those things.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Liz, I don't see any more questions in the chat. If anyone in the audience has a question or...
Well, Sunil did such a thorough and outstanding job of covering everything from start to finish, A to Z. And it's great to see some of the mantras that I live by, including the oxygen mask theory and PsyCap. It's great to see and good reminders. So again, on behalf of AmSham Abu Dhabi, of course, fabulous Women in Business Committee, our greatest thanks to Sunil and to Nina and to everyone who attended. A couple hours from now, you'll get an email with the recording link to this. And if you have post-event questions, just shoot us an email. We'll make sure to share them with Sunil. And again, please support IMA, a proud AmSham member, by not only joining the future Women in Business training courses such as this, but consider contacting IMA for further training. So at this point, I thank everyone for attending. We'll conclude the presentation. We know we went 4 minutes over, but your time is valuable and we value you. And thank you so much. Thank you, Sunil, Nina, Renat, Veronica, Shirat. Wishing everyone a wonderful afternoon. This concludes our event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.